Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. You're watching P3, the place where we feature individuals who have tapped into their power, passion, and purpose. I'm your host, Janie Terrazas, and today I'm extremely excited and grateful to have not only Chase Hansen, but his dad, John Hansen, today on the show. I cannot wait for people to hear about your story and hear what y'all feel power, passion, and purpose mean to you. So thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be on.
Thank you so much for having us.
I actually saw you and your story on a video that went viral online from, I think it's called NowThis, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about how you got to do what you are doing now, because you have a project called Project Empathy, and there's a whole backstory to how that got started and why you were compelled to make such an impact in your community when it comes to bringing awareness to homelessness.
I think it just all started when I saw the homeless shelter in downtown Salt Lake. I was 4 years old at the time, and me and my dad just liked to explore. We went downtown, we went everywhere, and we just wanted to see the world. And I was in downtown Salt Lake, and I saw the homeless community. And being a church-going boy, I thought there were only 20 or 30 homeless people in the community. And when I saw the downtown Gateway Mall, I was sad because I saw I saw the homeless community, and I really wanted to help the community. So I turned to my dad and I asked him, how can we help? And he said, well, you just got to ask them. So we started taking them out to meals, and we saw after a couple hundred meals that connection is what brings people together. We started seeing that social connection is good for people in this state of homelessness. They just need a friend in the community. And I started watching videos a couple years ago on how homeless people are affected by homelessness. And it was talking about how they just start going into a dark shadow and they start doing drugs and they think nobody's their friend, nobody cares about them. But if we can bring them people to come talk to them in meals, we started finding out that people can create connections, and through those connections, the homeless people can start to realize, hey, there's people out there looking out for me. And that's what we want them to know, that there's people out there that care and want them to get on their feet and want to be their friend. And during coronavirus, we know now more than ever that people just want to be connected, and people just want to meet people. And some people will be lonely in this country because they have nobody to be with them. They're just lonely and there's nobody there for them. So that's why we partnered up with Applebee's and started delivering meals to people's doors. Then the next day calling them up and talking with them. And through that connection, you make a new friend. And for some people that are lonely, like some people, like homeless people that are just sitting there with nobody to talk to, it really makes a difference to know that they just got a really delicious hamburger from Applebee's, and there's a person sitting on the phone right now just talking to them. The person who dropped off that meal and just talking to them, saying, hey, how are you? And for some people, that means a lot. And for me, who is trying to see those connections, really feels like that is a really good connection. And if we can get more of that in this time of need, it can feel good. And again, we just need to power through this and meet more people after this, so people don't have to be lonely.
And you really touched on something important, connection and friendship and our mental health. A lot of our mental health and emotional wellness comes from us being able to connect with other individuals, not just on a superficial level, but like on a deeper level. It's part of our humanity. And I think that is what makes the work most beautiful, because it's one thing to give someone a meal, but it's a whole nother thing to like break bread with a stranger, and then one who is homeless, because there's such a stigma around it. John, when you were growing up, did you have that humanitarian, altruistic outlook on life? Like, were you around that, or is this, how did Chase come to be such a little superhero?
That's a great question. I think that we emulate kind of what we experience in our childhood as parents. When we become parents, we just try to teach what we know. And so, like, my mom was real good at having all kinds of pets when I was little, lots of really great ways of nurturing creativity and compassion in me. And then I became a scout, you know, and so scouting, when I was 8, I just got really interested in, ended up getting all of the merit badges, became an Eagle Scout at 13. And I was raised in a very Christian family. So learning how to love my neighbor and then learning how to apply it is kind of what happened to me when I was young. Doing a good turn daily, and those types of things were just things that were ingrained into me. Loving my neighbor was something that was ingrained into me. And then when Chase and I really kind of had an opportunity when he was really little, I was really interested in how to teach my kid through tactile experiences. When he's going to church with his mom, that's great, but that's theory. And when you go out into the world and learn how to apply it, to me, I was interested in teaching my son some leadership skills that come only through watching and trying. So the homeless population was a really interesting place to land, where we were just trying to make a difference in an impactful manner through project-based learning and through really research. So Chase kind of took lead when he was really little at going out and applying creative problem solving to like what he was hearing from the front lines. So we learned a lot about compassion and kindness and non-judgment, and that people have a story to share by applying kind of our thought process to what we were seeing in our city.
And we started realizing that the stories about people is kind of like a library that you can just take somebody. It's like a human library that you can just take somebody out for a book or somebody out for a meal and just share about their stories. In my opinion, it's better than reading a book because you get the person's input in real life. And in Stanford, they did a experience. They did a human library experience from all the people you judge. And they just lined them up in the library, and instead of checking out a book for 20 or 30 minutes, you get to check out a person for 20 or 30 minutes, and you just got to hear about their stories and their inputs in life. And that's another thing that inspired us to do Project Empathy. If we can get other people to hear other people's stories, it's going to make a big impact in their lives and other people's lives. I've seen it as a 4-year-old. I started taking people out to meals, and it really put a bigger impact on me than I could ever realize. I learned about where people came from and other parts of the country, and it was just really interesting to hear about people's inputs. And then just spending time with them is a really good learning experience for anybody.
We've had some parents, like you said, reach out that really want to teach their kids empathy as a skill set. That's not taught really in school in a manner that's applicable, and probably it shouldn't be, because sometimes those are values. And so as parents, if we can line up our kids for experiences that are uncomfortable, we know Project Empathy is great for people who actually share their story, but what we've noticed is that people grow from that moment that they sit across from a stranger and try to have a conversation that's relevant where they listen for the first time. And that's really what parents should teach their kids. So we've had a great time just learning.
In these experiences, you're getting to practice really being present. You know, you were talking about quality time, and to offer your time in that way where you're truly present is a gift. And it's also teaching how to be an active, compassionate listener. You know, you get to feel when somebody's telling you a story, a piece of their story, you can feel whether or not you're sort of starting to judge it. And then it helps you get deeper into your own judgment and biases around people. So there's just so many skills that we need as human beings that help us be help us live from a very well-rounded place. It's really great to know how to use your mind and be a good thinker and understand how to use your head in a wise way. But there's so much intelligence in the heart. So I honor you guys greatly for doing that work and helping break down barriers, really, so that other people can see things from a different perspective. That is being very mindful, and I'm a big fan of that. Tell us a little bit about Kids Lab, because I believe y'all had Kids Lab and some pretty catastrophic things took place. And one of the things about living from power, passion, purpose is instilling and having this deep confidence from within, so that when things come and knock you down or take you off your path, where is that resilience to kind of keep forging forward? So go back into your story just a little bit, and then we can kind of like come back to another part of the journey.
Hit it up, man. What do you got to say?
All right, so Kid Labs was my makerspace that I created when I was 4. When I saw the homeless population, this was directly after, I wanted to make a bigger impact. I wanted to make an impact centered around fathers and their kids, because I noticed from many families that me and my dad spent a lot of time together, and I noticed from families that fathers and their kids didn't get to spend as much time as they did, as me and my dad did. We got lucky with that, and me and my dad were like, hey, we need to, I want to spend more time, I want to create that relationship between kids and their fathers. And so we created Kid Labs, and Kid Labs basically had father and son activities. We had tag at night, and so we all played tag, and that was a good father and son activity.
I think Chase doesn't remember a lot about that initial thing because it happened when he was just little tiny.
That's true.
So Chase was 4, and he was just got done watching 22 seasons of Power Rangers, and he was so into leadership and training that we decided that we would create a space out of a vacant warehouse. And that's kind of what Chase is talking about, is I wanted to see what it might be like to have a dream center or an imaginarium or a place that you could apply Jaden the Power Ranger to training for leadership. So we created a space out of a 3,800 square foot vacant pipe welding shop. We did it together. So when Chase was 4, we were scrubbing down walls and renting diamond tip grinders from Home Depot to create our own space.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, we just started doing anything that Chase could imagine that would be fun. And so
Right.
We started with Jedi training and tag and other things.
Yeah, we just started incorporating dads and their kids to come out and have a fun time, and just come out and meet with people and be with people and just create that connection that me and my dad had been developing for years.
We
Yeah.
had a volunteer that came in and stole all of our funds about a few months in.
No, 2 years in.
And so we ended up closing down the physical space that we tested out as a proof of concept. It was pretty destructive to us emotionally back then when this was 2014.
And yeah.
So we just kind of pivoted. We took about a year or so and just let the pain marinate of loss. And then really what we did is we pivoted downtown Salt Lake. And as we got on tracks all the time and went out and still did good work, we didn't have a physical there. We just kind of made Salt Lake our classroom space. So we would use tracks, which is the public transit, a lot. Primarily, almost every week, we would jump on and get lost. And that eventually led us down to Salt Lake, where Chase was alluding to that really when he was little, he had a physical space and then he didn't have one. And his heart was such that he really wanted to help people. And so we just started working on unique solutions to homelessness when he was like little. So for the last 6 years, Chase has sat down and had hundreds of experiences one-on-one with people that are minimized and looked over and that have problems.
I mentioned the video NowThis that you guys got featured on.
The NowThis video kind of led to a platform. We had Kid Labs. We never really shared about it. We went out and worked for 2 or 3 years as volunteers and nobody found out about it. And so this lady had gotten an email from me. I was just curious as if they would be interested in the story. And so it was in her junk mailbox, and she ended up somehow going through her junk email and found like some pictures of like this little kid and the dad. So she like recovered it from her junk and then called us up, and that's where she really did a great job of taking just a bunch of pictures and turning it into a beautiful story that kind of describes Project Empathy and its roots. So
that's incredible. And from that, you guys had an opportunity to be on Good Morning America. And I believe they did a feature in the Washington Post. And of course, you were also in the local newspaper, and some of the local influencers and politicians or public leaders were also catching wind of your story and honoring you in ways. So it got some traction. Tell me what that was like, being on Good Morning America, getting to talk about Project Empathy. And also, John, what was that like being in the audience, seeing your son? I'll let Chase go first.
We got the call a couple days and said, like, it was this guy, and he's like, hey, we want you to be on Good Morning America. And we're like, oh, okay. My dad told me like a week before we went, he was like, oh, Chase, we're flying out to New York for Good Morning America. And he already told my mom, I'm like, wait, so you're telling me this now? All right, cool. I'll start packing my bags. So then we flew down to New York. It was really awesome. I hadn't been in a plane for a while. They put us up in this really nice hotel called the Millennium. I remember that because I think of the Millennium Falcon every time I think about it. And we just got to see the city. We went to Central Park. We went all over. It was really cool just to be there. And then in the morning at 7 a.m. or something, we woke up and we got dressed and we went down to Good Morning America. It was so awesome. And there was this guy standing in there, and he took us up to this little place where we just sat down and waited to go on. And I was like nervous. I'm like, and then we went in and we asked the guy, how did you find out about us? And he said, well, it was basically email forward tag, and it just went around from a bunch of different people, and then it finally came to me, and I'm like, hey, this could be a real story. So he went to the producers, they liked it, and I went on Good Morning America. It was really awesome. My dad was in the front seat of the crowd there, the live audience. It was really cool.
I was super proud. I think that it was a great gift at the end of a very long beginning chapter. We spent thousands of hours without like publicity or Instagram photos.
That is what really struck me, because those of us that really have it in our hearts to serve others and to help humanity in whatever way we can, it really is something, it's like a fire inside that we can't, put out. And we answer it. So it's really noble work.
For me, it was like beautiful that my son's sitting like coming outside of the door, and I'm like surrounded by a couple hundred people that stood up as he came out of the door. And to me that was beautiful, because I'm watching my son hug the two celebrities and really looked at, and people were listening to what he had to say for a few moments. And it was just beautiful for me to be able to experience that with him as a gift that came from nowhere. So it was fun.
Yeah, you really are doing work similar to what Jesus was talking about. And I know that is somebody that you look up to and respect and admire. So I really feel you are like a disciple for unconditional love, which is super
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Yeah, for
Thank you.
sure.
Agents of love, right? That's the superhero power that we all can kind of buy into. Is what does that feel like, and what does that look like, and how do we leverage that right now to heal people? I think one of the things that you see is that we live in a country and we live in a world where lots of us prescribe to the belief of love. Just the mechanism of how to deploy that or strengthen that can be theoretical, but also can be applied. So what we like to think is people for sure would do something if it was clear and simple and easy, and a transaction that they could put in a box on a calendar and understand. So what we were trying to figure out is how to provide a catalyst, or how to get people who have a story to share who would benefit from authentic human connection or love. And then how do you find those that would serve and then match them together? So that's really where Project Empathy for us has been about studying out how to foster human connection.
And how to embrace social change.
Yeah, and then
how
how to
to-
bring more people into it so
how
that
to-
others can experience it. Right?
How to have people learn from their experiences and pass it on to others.
Chase kind of developed Project Empathy with my help, clearly. When he was 6, he really got serious about this, and as a father, just saying, well, how do we share love and how do we learn how to help people? You know, inspired Chase to have difficult conversations where people opened up to him way better than they would open up to an adult. And so it's the type of interactions that we have. So Chase got way better data as a researcher, PhD level, than I would by sitting across from a stranger with no teeth that sometimes had visible track marks of heroin. And they were sharing with Chase about their advice, and Chase was simply just listening. It wasn't the act of what we learned as much as giving somebody an opportunity to share something that they had to share. So we think that a human dose of good love really could be something that many people would do if there was a clear way that, oh yeah, I'll share a meal with somebody. Do I have to pay for it, or does it come? You know, and then who am I supposed to meet with, and how do I make sure that it's safe? And that's some of the things that we've kind of been trying to think of.
Ooh, that's a good point to bring up, because there are people that want to, but they also want to know, like, what are the things that I need to be careful of saying, just some basic guidelines, but still leave enough room for people to engage, like, authentically.
So I think that oftentimes, you know, you got religious leaders and political leaders, and everybody wants to help ease human suffering.
Yes.
And so the question is how do we do that and scale it? Is it possible? And right now we're grateful that a lot of people are starting to get hungry for each other. Now that thought process is how do we help the 500,000 unsheltered in this country?
Mm-hmm.
And what we think about is, well, step one is to teach the importance of empathy and to ask people what they want.
Yeah.
So we are excited. We're trying to partner up with cities and county governments right now to really develop how information gets passed back from a conversation that somebody has that's maybe referred from their service provider or their caseworker or their doctor. So we would say that a doctor would prescribe human encounters that are positive, where someone learns about themselves because of what they experience.
Yes, it feels as if you are looking at an issue that has been prevalent for a really long time and looking at it from a lot of different angles and wanting to treat it holistically. You recognize with all the research and all the conversations you've had that maybe what we've been doing this whole time to help is not really the most ideal way to help. And I think going to the mental part of it and the emotional part of it is really huge. So you've devoted so much of your time, Chase. Like, gosh, you're how old now?
11.
11. And you've been at this like since 4 or something?
Yeah, that's 4. So it's been a couple years.
Yeah,
We've got 7 years of thinking about how does he improve the world, just because we love it. We love spending time together and trying to do something good. So.
And you know, the thing that's so amazing is you guys really are making waves to really create significant changes that can really last long term. So this is a legacy for you guys. So that must be really exciting. And it's beautiful that you guys are also exemplifying what a healthy father-son relationship looks like. I love too that you're all about creativity and imagination. And you guys really, really keep that alive in yourselves and in your relationship. And of course, you're encouraging other people to keep that inner child and that playful, carefree, open-mindedness alive inside of us. Is there anything else that you guys would like to share before we leave? And I would love for you to let people know how they can connect with you.
We have one way to really get a hold of us, which is through Facebook, Project Empathy L3C. There's a link on there to the data research side of what we built Project Empathy on. So for the geeks that like public health and for those that like social impact initiatives, all of the research of why we built it the way that we built it and what we've tested out is kind of contained on that. So that's Project Empathy L3C on Facebook. And if others want to get involved, what we seek to do is to encourage and seed kindness. It's the thousands of people right now who don't have family and friends, who live on the street and haven't had coffee shops.
Mhm.
That are just lonely, that need human connection.
That deserve a smile. And so food is a catalyst, right? We use food sometimes to a deep dive deep. But really, when you look at your local opportunities, there's shelters all over our country, and there's people who just deserve you. And so what we try to get people to do is test out ways that they can get to know others within their Facebook network as practice. And then when it feels right and when it's an opportunity that's right, what we do in our model is for two individuals, we always do buddy systems. So it's always Chase and I meeting with one person. And so we invite individuals to share value in a dignified process. We exchange food in exchange for their time. And so what we try to do is really just ask people about their story. And that's something that you can do anywhere at any time. And so when you look at Project Empathy in this bit of scripture, what we see is that there's a health benefit associated with authentic human connection.
Yeah.
And so what people have to do is when they're ready for a challenge, take it up. And then share your story with us if you find somebody.
I appreciate you guys so much for taking the time to be with me today, and blessings on all of your endeavors. Continue
Thank
to
you.
on everything, Chase. I always think it's great for other young people to see that it really doesn't matter how small you are, you can make huge waves, and you're certainly doing that. So thank you again. And
Thank you.
yeah, I look forward to hopefully meeting you guys in person one day.
Yeah. Thank you.
And thank you everyone for tuning in to Rise Above TV, where we are empowering humanity and supporting unity. Be sure to tune in next week when we feature Dr. Sunitha Punjabi, also known as the Brain Coach. You won't want to miss what she has to say about power, passion, and purpose. Till next time, peace be in us.